Okay, and we're back. I want to welcome Morgan Anderson, Spark 360 CEO of Americas. And today, our topic, Morgan, is tariffs and uncertainty. And there's a lot in the news about that these days, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. You said the word uncertainty. That's a word that we're hearing everywhere.
Yeah.
There's just a growing uncertainty almost everywhere.
But for shippers in particular, it brings a special set of challenges. And what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Well, we say the word uncertainty again. They don't know what to buy or where to buy it. So, I think it's fairly well publicized that large retailers like Walmart, Target, and others have canceled orders in Asia. There's a growing concern about potential empty shelves, and they're trying to figure out what to do. I think it's fairly common knowledge that 95% of all apparel is produced in Asia, right? China, Vietnam. And so think about if you have any apparel, what are you doing? At least if it comes from China, there's a 145% tariff on it for the time being. So there are lots of folks struggling to figure out what to do next.
And it's not just the tariffs, right? There's growing uncertainty about a potential trade war, which is
Mhm.
kind of really kicking off now. The stock market goes down, then it's up, then it's down again, and consumer sentiment seems to be waning. How does this all impact a shipper?
Well, you mentioned the uncertainty of a trade war. Farmers, we send a lot of food products to China, and that has dried up. It's not just we talked about apparel or other things. There are multiple vendors or suppliers, partners in the supply chain, right? So someone may make buttons for a shirt, and someone may make colors for the shirt. Well, that entire chain now is disrupted. And I think I read yesterday that there was 80 blank sailings coming out of Asia. So those relatively empty ships, right, will hit the West Coast in what, 20 days or something like that. And so the drayage providers, the folks unloading the ships and other transportation logistics group that meet them at the port, they're going to go through some type of change as well. So the uncertainty, it ripples throughout
Mhm.
supply chain.
Yeah. Now, the last thing I'm wanting to do in this environment, if I'm a manufacturer, is to spend a lot of money on something, right?
Right.
I'm wanting to keep costs down, but I have a lot of fixed costs, and I have some variable costs, I have some fixed costs. But what are people doing? Like, what should people be doing to address all of these unknowns and this new environment that we find ourselves in?
Well, we're seeing two main things. One is they're doing something to simulate, or people call it a virtual twin, to model what's happening in their supply chain in their world, and then run scenarios to say what's the best scenario. So if I was
Mhm.
buying in China, now do I buy in Vietnam? And if I buy in Vietnam, what's the lead time? Who are the vendors? How do I cut POs? And to simulate that so they can run the numbers quickly and view multiple options in a rapid period of time. And we think things are going to continue to change. So you need the ability to do that ongoing. And then the second thing is just removing waste. We're huge proponents of lean methodologies, and there's a waste in the supply chain, and now there's new waste because of the changes. And so really isolating the waste and finding ways to change your processes or change your approach, to lower your cost as much as possible. Because as you said, the uncertainty is driving lots of things, and people typically think of capital, like if they're going to build a plant or make some huge capital investment, that's a 10 or 20-year cycle. And they really don't know yet what the future holds. And so you need some immediate relief. And we find lean or eliminating waste is a great thing to do in a time like this.
And so how do lean tools help? Like, can you give us a couple examples or an example of how lean helps?
Yeah, well, a very common one is to do sort of an assessment. Some people may call them time studies. We like to use the term value stream map, where you you map out all the key process flows, and there are different levels of that. A true value stream map is very detailed to value add, non-value add, and lots of math. But sometimes it's just a process flow. And then you may interview key stakeholders, suppliers, or your employees or folks, and you just get a good feel for what the current state is. That step one, step two, step three, and then you work with your team, right? And you brainstorm and you do what ifs, and you say, hey, what are some ideas that we can do to eliminate waste, to eliminate steps, to improve efficiencies? And so we do that, and companies do this in a collaborative manner with their employees and with their vendors and suppliers. And then you get a list of ideas, and you prioritize. You want to do the high value, easy ones first, and then you get those things implemented and make changes as quickly as possible. So I gave you the Reader's Digest version, but sometimes that entire cycle can happen within a few weeks.
Well,
We've seen examples of major changes or projects that have been implemented in less than a month, saving millions of dollars. So it can move rapidly, but it depends on all the stakeholders and depends on the situation.
well, that was my next question is don't these things cost a lot of money and time to implement? But you're saying that's not necessarily the case.
Not necessarily. It's a lot of it just depends on the opportunity, depends on the openness and the willingness of folks to be open-minded to find different ways to do things. But yeah, we typically, when we start a lean engagement, there's an ROI within 90 days, 120 days. Typically, sometimes it's faster. So a lot of it depends on the total opportunity. But that there's a quick payback in lean, because you're not investing in a huge machine, right? You're not buying some large software typically, right? It's just your people, and it's just common sense, and it's the lean methodology is proven over decades of work and opportunities, and so yeah, it's a fairly quick ROI almost every time we do it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Is there anything else our audience should know? And while you answer that, let me pull this up, and I want people to know you recently wrote a blog. And for those of you looking at the screen on YouTube or something, I promise to put a hyperlink down there so you don't have to memorize that URL. But you recently wrote a blog that kind of delved into some of these issues with some ideas and solutions. So I want to put that up there for people. But anything else you think people should know about this topic?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier digital twin. Large entities, like a large CPG group that we dealt with, they have digital twinned 19 of their value chains. So it could be the transit from Asia to the U.S. It could be an individual warehouse. It could be a huge building. It could be some type of cross dock or value added type facility. So there are lots of things to digital twin. Large companies have resources and technology, and they're doing it. What we're seeing is folks at 5 billion and under, it's difficult for them to have these resources. So that's something you should consider having a partner do, because having the ability to run scenarios very quickly lets the smart people in your organization figure out what to do. And unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong on this, but I think there's going to be more uncertainty. I think the tariffs are going to continue to change. It's a country by country type thing. Now India looks like a good place, but that could change. I hope it doesn't. And so it's not just something you need now. You may need it in a month. You may need it in 6 months. So being able to run quick simulations on your value changes is a valuable thing to have these days.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time. I'm going to put your email up there. Is that a thing that people can do? Could people just email
Sure.
you if they have
Yeah,
any questions? All right.
for sure. Would love to. Feel free to reach out. Would love to connect with folks. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, Morgan, and thanks everybody for watching. And stay tuned for the next edition of Spark Talks.
Thank you.